So we as Americans hold value towards our Constitution, right? Because we have elected officials that we think should be leaders and they supposedly make the great decision for us. But this 25 cents that I'm showing to you right here isn't worth 25 cents. It's actually worth 1 cent. And let me tell you why. The only thing valuable more than this is the actual silver that it's made on. And even at that, some of these coins are made with pure silver. You know what I mean? Now let me tell you why. As capitalism corrupts more things that it touches, it uses basic algorithm and distributive values to sell and manufacture its selling procedures to profit and maximum quantities, which is why we're getting paid better than any other country. That's why people want to come here, even people from Venezuela. Now, I'm saying if you haven't looked at how much we owe, the founding fathers that we have that were here explained this very well about how we as Americans would trade our sovereignty for monetary expense. Like, let's say if another country wanted a benefit from us, like let's say China, and they wanted minerals from the ground, and we owe them money, which we do. And go ahead and look at that U.S. debt clock website, and go ahead and look at how much we owe China. The reason we owe China is because of we build up China so we can take over their industry so they can get paid less and we can make all the money. That's why everything that we have is made in China. If you haven't looked, you see this degree and at the bottom it says made in China. I don't have to show you. You've seen things that say it. Even this watch was made in China. They sell it at Walmart. I like it because it's waterproof. If it goes in the rain, it won't corrode. I can just buy another one easy. But in the meanwhile, we have more things coming from China and on the trade. I think that we should get off the monetary, how we classify what money is worth and how it's worth. Based on the current value, right now our money is intertwined with the petroleum, and that's what gives it its value. John F. Kennedy died trying to take it off and then put it into gold, some of the gold we had. Now, this debt is growing. That means if you haven't looked and noticed that the dollar isn't worth the dollar anymore, because I go to the store, I used to buy a big bag of hot Cheetos, the $2 and more bag. And some of you guys that are hot Cheeto lovers know what I'm talking about. Now it's worth $4. So that means if it was worth $2, it went up 100%. That means you put another dollar on top of that dollar. The deficit we have, which I don't characterize it as a deficit. When Obama started printing more money with the federal surplus, the stimulus package we had twice. We printed more money than we should have, and now we ended up with an inflation. Inflation is when there's too much money running around the country, and the dollar value goes down. This is why this is actually worth a cent, you know. And the cent it's out. It's not worth anything other than the copper that is made on. We, as of right now, as Americans, we are trading our sovereignty because there's companies out there that are using this trade deficit, this enslavement, as what I would say, enslavement as to trade it for an expense to trade it to pay the debt that we owe them. Now, this isn't the only country that we owe money. We owe other countries money also, but because we have the biggest military might, they don't come after us in that way. We have what 8 destroyers, and China has what they're barely one, but they can't afford to make it because it's cost that much. So whether they attack us or not, they won't win. We have our military is getting even bigger, and the only reason we have it bigger is because we are the police of the world. We want to watch over countries. We want to topple governments. We want to continue to observe and say what values and who do we want to install and what government to which benefits we want from a country. Like if we want oil, what did George Bush do? He said we had weapons of mass destruction, and we went over there and we toppled that government. We took the oil, we used it to our benefit. We got out of a small depression back then, but then it kicked in all the way. Then 2008 hit, and then we were out. Gas was $8. There was long lines. Food was scarce. People were losing their job. You guys, in 2008, whoever, I was in high school. I remember this. I couldn't go out with my friends unless I walked because my family only owned 2 cars, and gas went up to there. And then my dad was trying to keep that gas full just in case we needed to do something like get out or whatever. But it was a hard time. I couldn't even go to school in the car. I had to walk. You know, I had to go home walking because I didn't want to be in an expense towards that small fixture. While we look at the trade deficit as something small because nobody worries about it because you have money. The inflation we have, the activity for the inflation, it's already kicking in. The dollar isn't worth the dollar anymore. And if you see it while you trade with other money currency, like let's say UK, it's always changing because of this. We have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars for the government, but as it was until we had this debt that we started paying taxes, right? So the Constitution says there shall not be a taxation without representation. That's the reason we got away from the UK. And when they do taxes, it's to pay off this debt that the government created. The Federal Reserve, which is controlled by other families. Nobody in the U.S. controls the Federal Reserve. The amount owed to this fixed APR rate, this interest rate, is absurd. Like even Trump talks about it. He says, "Why are you thinking?" Like you can look. I'm gonna go ahead and post that link under what my thoughts are, so you guys can know why the Federal Reserve chair is not part of the government. And I know Trump doesn't have the power to kick him out either because he only represents us like as in it's like a global compact. I know you guys are thinking, oh, the dollar is worth this much in Mexico or in Brazil or in China, and how many rupees are worth $1. All that is just made up money because we keep printing it. Let's say if I had this and then I print it as $1 and then I just keep exchanging it, it's just worth that the money that is printed on. And while we wait and hold on, we go into more debt because these governors that we have don't do anything about it. They don't have leadership. They contribute to the demise of this nation. You have Trump spending more on military than education. There was a quote that I seen: if we were to minimize our military spending by 90%, it would still be more than compared than three of the biggest countries in the world. This is why Russia doesn't want us in NATO, because with NATO, the other countries that are stuck with us, not stuck, and I would say stuck because we all have to send Marines to fight another cause for NATO when they take over another country. Technically, the same mentality that Hitler had, but with more countries stuck together. This is why there's endless wars, and then they take away France's part of it. Ridiculous. And when you think about it, it's only the winners of World War II that are in NATO. Now, Germany was a loser, but the only reason they're in it is so they can maximize their military spending, so they can make more. Because right now there's a law in place after World War II, and Germany got defeated. There is a law where there's only a certain amount of people that can be in the military. And Merkel, the president of Germany, wants to make it to where, oh, we're helping NATO, well, let's have more soldiers so I can send more. So they can breach that contract legally and say, oh, well, we're NATO, so you guys can't say anything. And probably Merkel's going to look at this video and she'll be like, oh, don't expose me. But that's what the truth is. Read your books. We have books for a reason. You guys should read them. There's an eagle on the coin. It expresses the sky isn't the limit. But I say once we are in debt, like not even the sky's the limit, but we're gonna have to trade something for something in exchange so we can get away without harm, right? Now, if it is that, let's say that we owe and we can't pay back, and we decide not to pay back, then trade deficit and all that goes down. That means the same brand of highlighters that we have, and we don't decide to pay back a small amount, they can go ahead and just pull this out of our markets and say, okay, well, until you pay back, then you can have these in y'all's markets. And because we are so dependent on just charging 1 cent per highlighter to China, then we're gonna try to make them here, which is gonna cost more. And while we pay, which isn't malinformed, I would say, this highlighter would cost $3 to make here because we're paying an American person a salary, benefits, retirement, 401k, an IRA, and all these other things. And as soon, let's say, for another example, that would be a demise price. Like the Apple phone that's worth $1,000 and it's already made in China. Imagine if they start making it here. It'll be worth $2,500 because of the environment issue that's going to be. Some workers are going to get sick. We're going to have to pay that insurance backlash. The amount of things that it costs to make that iPhone, the gold that's involved, the you know, and that's going to be who's going to pay $2,500 for a phone? So I mean, Trump is a little bit cuckoo talking about for Cocoa Puffs if he's going to start making iPhones here, because they cost $2,500 to make if we bring those jobs here for Apple. Now, if you make them in China, then that's a different story, what we have now. I mean, it gives you guys something to think about. But this trade deficit, it's growing, and until we elect people who actually stop spending more than what we actually make, and when we pay taxes, because we as taxpayers have been doing what the law is to pay taxes, and it is on us to choose officials to actually distribute that money and make cuts where necessary to make sure that we United States citizens are paid and have are doing business the right way. What other country spends more than what they make? Not even I do that, because in my check there's only a certain amount of dollars that I get. If I were to spend it before I get it, then I would be in more debt than what I than what I anticipated. Like let's say I make $1,000 every 3 days, right? So during the week, that would be $2,000. So if I start spending $5,000 within that week, then that means I'm on the negatives. Am I correct? And while that happens, um, I become enslaved and credit card debt, and I start owing, and it won't stop until I have cleared that. And while that happens, this is why I don't believe in credit, because as soon as we stop credit, we those people who rely on credit, like for houses, they end up losing everything because they depend on credit. And then there's a bubble. When it bursts, we end up owing more than what we make, than what was there. The imagined money, the bubble that we saw with the housing market in 2008 and 2012 with Obama. That happened again because we kept loaning out money on credit that wasn't even there. And while you're looking at this video, this 21 trillion climbed at least 500,000 in the last 4 minutes. If you don't believe me, go ahead and check. Keep checking every 5 minutes on that clock, and it's still climbing. And the reason that's out in the open is because of the Freedom of Information Act. If it wasn't for that, this wouldn't be available to you. My channel would probably get cut off. The FBI, whatever, would try to hunt me down. But this isn't worth 25 cents anymore. It's worth a cent. And for those that think otherwise, I mean, maybe they're just misinformed, or they didn't read their books and economics. And it's unbelievable how some of our elected officials keep spending money like that. Now you see Mexico, and even the politicians are involved with corruption over there. When the peso goes down, which is Mexican currency, because there's so much corruption and they hold so much money, the elected officials, they do deport people out there so they can keep the wealth inside the country. They pump money where it needs to go, because it is a socialized country. There's health care for everyone, free, universal health care. I like the Canada. And I like the communist countries, when they're in a depression or recession, it takes them a year and a half to get out of that recession. While over here, it takes like 10, 15 years to get out of our recession because of free markets. Mexico is so involved with corruption and this dollar right here, that when they see the peso go down, they start pumping. And I'm saying like this, like, you know how you pump milk, sweet milk into cake and then tres leches? Okay, well, they start pumping that money. So instead of the peso monetary value goes down, it goes up, and it gets stable. So they don't lose money. They don't lose the monetary value of the Mexican peso. If you look at the markets, they haven't. That peso hasn't gone down, and that's why there's people that exchange this for Mexican pesos, because this goes down. This went down a lot in the past years, and there has been American people that have traded these for Mexican pesos because that hasn't gone down. And I'm not saying it's a better country, but I'm saying we gotta learn and evolve and adapt to our circumstances. We can't be spending so much. For those people that think otherwise, they probably have a credit card and they have credit, but it'll catch up to them. And they're probably new to this channel and they don't know. Now, if by any means necessary means that we need to impeach Trump or take away the rights for instead of them buying so much for the military, like why don't we take care of this debt? Like wouldn't that be our first priority instead of selling our sovereignty as a nation to other countries that want our demise, that want to hurt us, that don't care about our environmental impact, that don't care about emissions control, about our laws, our bylaws, and our own health, because there's so many cars in the streets. It makes smog, and then it makes health problems for people with asthma or with epilepsy and all that, and it gets in the waterways for the animals, and it's bad for everybody, the environment. Like what species destroys their own environment and lives off of that? I'm not saying capitalism is bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm neutral to anything like that. But I'm just saying, I'm giving you an example as to why this is still 1 cent. But they say it's worth 25 cents. I believe otherwise because I know better. I know exactly what we're getting into, and we're gonna need 100 of these to equal a dollar later on if we don't change these. If we don't open our eyes, I'm spilling the beans so you guys can grab them and take them. Depending on what you guys think, like and subscribe. Um, or you can go ahead and pay your $65,000 to the government and then get out of this country. Maybe another reason they're building that wall, to keep everybody in here instead of coming out or moving out from the citizenship. Who knows? Maybe that's an idea from the government, and maybe the shutdown happened because the government doesn't have money. And while people pay their taxes, their fair share, maybe this is the end for the U.S. This means that we couldn't take care of it, and capitalism destroyed us, and we're gonna have a reset on the government and everything, and the whole everything. We're gonna have to pay everything with the only money that we have. The rich people, the poor people are gonna have to pay all the cents that we owe to the other countries. I liked how Mexico did in the 19. They had so many companies cutting trees and all that. There was a president that was like, "Nah, everybody needs to get the fuck out." And then, since they didn't have money, the poor people started chipping in these Mexican pesos that were small in value, but they got through until they started selling their sovereignty with some presidents that are former presidents, and then they started coming back for more. Indigenous people got trucked out of their land for minerals that were in the floor and all that. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen here. Maybe it's not. But that 21 trillion is climbing, and we need to change. I mean, I don't mean to scare you guys, but if you owe money and the creditors come to bite, you can't get mad. I mean, we don't have laws to protect us from those creditors from China and all that. And that's the reason they're stealing our intellectual property and all that. That's why Trump is so against that. But I do think that we can make a change. We wake everybody up. Like, share this video, like and subscribe. I'm gonna come up with more things that I've read in the books, life opening lessons. I don't do card reading. I don't do all that. I'm gonna open your eyes and make sure that you understand. Alright, like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumb in the middle, or whatever. You have a nice day.